Hey guys, Swamp Fox here. I'm a new content creator and I've been doing a ton of research on how to best use Streamlabs OBS to do a couple of things. The biggest thing I want to be able to do is record at a very high resolution, preferably 1080p, 60 frames per second, and then stream at 720p, either 30 or 60 frames per second. I would prefer 60, but the reason I'm doing that is I want people on mobile to be able to watch my stream and not have to have like crazy internet. So these are going to be my personal settings, and again, I'm new, so this is just the culmination of a few weeks of pretty in-depth research. But if anybody thinks that there's a better way to do this or better settings that can be used, I'm all ears. So go ahead and comment below, hit me up, and we'll get a discussion going about it. So without any further ado, let's just jump right into Streamlabs, and we'll take a look at these settings, and hopefully they'll be able to help you guys out. Alright guys, so now we're in my Streamlabs settings. Now I'm not looking forward to having the whole Hall of Mirrors effect going on from having the main screen on my monitor, so I just dragged it off onto my secondary monitor here. We'll go over actually setting up scenes and your webcam, game capture, things like that in a later video. This is just going to be for my settings, so that way you can get pretty decent quality out to your audience as well as record at a very high quality. So the first thing you're going to notice is I've got my base resolution at 1920 by 1080. Now that is the highest that my monitor will personally go. So if you can go higher and you've got a computer that can go higher, you can. But then I've got my output scaled resolution at the same, so 1080p as well. The reason I want to do that is so that way I can use the really good NVENC encoder for my recording at 1080 and not have any issues with that. I'm using the Sharpen Scaling 32 sample downscale filter. That's the best, that's the sharpest. If you're running into performance issues, you can absolutely use the 16 samples. I think it's called byte cubic. That's definitely usable. And then for my FPS type, I just have integer and 60. That way I'm streaming and recording a constant 60 frames per second. Now, when we actually go to the output tab, that's where things get a little bit strange for some people. Because again, I'm not affiliated or partnered with Twitch, so I need to make sure that I can get decent quality out to my audience without running into issues of them not being able to, check it out on a mobile connection or anything like that. Because most people anymore are, they're either on, a tablet or a phone and they're out and about. So you're losing a big chunk of your audience if you don't do that. So I've got my encoder set for software X264. It's a little bit slower of an encoder and it uses a little bit more CPU power. But the nice part about it is you can actually rescale your output. NVENC doesn't support that yet. So if you use NVENC, you're gonna be putting out what you have set in your output scaled resolution here. So you're forced to use 1080p, and I don't wanna do that. So we have it set to 264 and check rescaled output and set it to 1280 by 720. So we're getting our 720p, and again at 60 frames per second because of what we have in the video tab. And then rate control is going to be a constant bitrate CBR at 4500. That is a little bit high possibly, but I want to put out as much quality as I can. I haven't gotten any complaints of people having issues on mobile, so I'm going to keep it there, but my upload rate's around 6 megs per second too. So if you're not quite that high, you can drop it down to 4000 with probably next to no noticeable loss in quality. If you have to drop it down to 3500, at that point you might want to look at actually streaming at 30 frames per second instead of 60. It's not ideal, but a smooth 30 frames per second looks a lot better than a stuttery, laggy, jagged 60 frames per second every time. And people are watching a stream, they know it's not going to be, super HD crazy quality. They just want to interact with you and hang out and watch you play. So your keyframe interval, you're going to want to set at 2 as well. And then your CPU preset, you can go anywhere from fastest all the way down to placebo. This is just based on how well your CPU runs. I find that I get the best balance of quality and speed at fast. And once I go to medium, I start getting slowdowns in game, which I don't like. It gets a little bit stuttery. Fast with a high profile for my PC, I'm using an i7 5820K. So if you're running a better CPU than that, drop it down to medium, see what it does. But for me, fast is where I want it to be. And then tune, I don't have any options, and I don't have any crazy command line options set up there either. So when we go back up to the top and then go to recording, so what you want to do is set your recording path. So wherever you want on your hard drive, to record, that's what you're going to put there if there's any specific folders you want. Now, one word of warning is if you only have a solid state drive, I don't recommend recording, because you're gonna actually really reduce the life cycle of your drive, and it's just gonna fail without warning, especially if it's not a brand new drive. So regular hard drives are cheap. Buy a hard drive. I literally just bought a 2 terabyte hard drive for like $60 on Newegg. So if you need a new hard drive, just grab one. If you're just streaming, it's not a big deal, but if you're wanting to record as well, you're going to be dropping huge file types and just grinding your hard drive down to nothing. So make sure you have a standard hard drive when you're doing this, and it doesn't have to be crazy, just like 7200 RPM, lots of space, and you're good to go. So your recording format, you've got a couple options here. I personally like to record in FLV. Now with FLV, there is a downside to it. The downside to that is you can't just immediately throw it into something like Adobe Premiere or DaVinci Resolve. You have to do what's called remuxing it, which I'm also going to go over. It takes like 2 seconds. It's super easy. The other option is you can record directly to MP4. The problem with that is if you're streaming or recording and you have a crash or a blue screen or just anything goes wrong, you lose the entire video. With FLV, you may lose 10 to 15 seconds of the video that you're recording if your computer crashes, but it's all going to be there, so you can salvage what you can. MP4 is all or nothing. So if you don't get the chance to actually click end recording, you're done, and whatever you recorded for however long it was is just lost and gone. So I recommend FLV. You can run multiple audio tracks if you are using MP4, but again, FLV, one audio track, not a big deal. And then I am using the hardware NVENC encoder, so that's going to run off of the 1080p that we set in the video tab, very first thing. And no crazy custom muxer settings, but the rate control, I'm actually using CQP. That is not a constant bit rate. It compresses where it can, and where it can't, it uses very close to full quality. Now the CQ level you see there that I have set at 20, that's a balance, just like with the 264 for fast, very fast, medium. 20 gives me a really good quality that I like. It takes a lot of hard drive space. It's about 28 to 30 gigs an hour, but it's really good quality, and I don't mind that. And it doesn't slow my computer down really at all. I might lose 2 to 4 frames per second, so it's not a big deal. You can set that higher or lower to whatever your preferences are, but 20 is, to me, a really good starting spot. And then my keyframe interval I have set at 2. And then my presets, again, I have max quality and high. You can play around with that too. I would probably set the preset to max quality and high almost no matter what, unless you're getting big slowdowns, and then play with the CQ level to make sure that you're not getting anything too crazy and slowing down your machine too much. I would rather play with the CQ level than with the presets if at all possible. And then psychovisual tuning you want to leave on, and look ahead you want to leave off, unless you're playing a game like Hearthstone that doesn't have a whole lot of motion to it. You just want to leave that off for the most part. And then GPU 0, that's your primary graphics card. If you're running multiple graphics card, congratulations, you're probably not watching this video, but you know, you can set it to whichever one you need there. If you do have, you know, a GPU dedicated for something other than graphics and recording, you can modify that there. And then max B frames is going to be 2. Now the rest of this is pretty much personal preference, just to give you guys an idea. So under my advanced, I don't really have too much of anything going on. I don't have a stream delay, but if you do want to have one, if you're worried about getting stream sniped, you can enable a delay and set your duration here. You're naturally going to have a short delay. It's usually 5 to 7 seconds between what's actually happening in real time and when they see it on the stream. So there's a small delay built in, but if you want to extend that, that's where you do it. And then, you know, automatically reconnect if you lose a connection, things like that. So nothing too crazy there. Everything else is pretty much personal preference. If you want overlays like your chat on your own screen, if you don't have a second monitor, you can do that in here. I haven't played around with that. I know that Some people really like it. I know some people don't. It's not compatible with all games, so I just run everything on a second monitor that I can. But if you don't have that as an option, then that's a good way to go. And then you can set your notifications, your appearances, and so on and so forth. So that's pretty much my OBS settings. Again, if anybody has any questions or disagrees with anything that I have here, feel free to hit me up, comment, and we'll get a discussion going and see what the best option is. But this should get you started. You'll be able to record and stream at the same time, really good quality, and you don't need a crazy good computer to do it. You can always play around with your settings though if you need to as well. But that's pretty much it, guys. So get everything set up and start streaming, start recording, and get some content out there. All right, so now I'm going to show you how to remux the video that you recorded in FLV format so that you can actually edit it in Adobe Premiere or DaVinci Resolve or whatever video editor that you use. So you'll see here on my E drive, I've only got a couple videos here. I've got the first part of this video that you guys already watched, the second part that I recorded in Streamlabs that we need to remux so that we can actually edit that so I can get it up to YouTube. So there's another program you're going to want to download. It's small. It's actually OBS Studio. So instead of Streamlabs OBS, we're going to use OBS Studio for this. And it's literally like a 10-second process. But we're going to go ahead and fire this up. Oh, that's right. I already have it open. So what you have to do is once you open it up, and you're going to notice it looks kind of familiar, but kind of not. It's kind of the original version of OBS, Open Broadcaster software, and Streamlabs builds on that, makes it a little bit easier, but it doesn't have the ability to remux straight out of the box. So all we really have to do is just go into File and then Remux Recordings, and then the OBS recording, you're going to navigate to where you want to go. So we're just going to go ahead and go to Seagate and then Streamlabs Settings and open, and it's going to take it from streamlabsettings.flv to streamlabsettings.mp4, and then we're going to hit Remux, and that's literally it. It's done. So we'll hit OK, we'll hit close, we'll close out of this, and now you'll see there's actually another video here. So we've still got the original FLV file, and now we've got the MP4. So now you can throw these into whatever editor you want, clip them together, edit them however you need, and get it processed and pushed up to YouTube. So that's really it.